A disclaimer: I was able to try out the game through not so legal means, but this meant that actual gameplay was fairly buggy. Any character I make goes into the game without features, so if you're expecting a video of actual gameplay, you're gonna have to wait until the game is actually localized. But based on what I've seen though, might be cool. I usually spend a lot of time in character creation systems. In the case of The Sims 3, I spent nearly 2 hours making a huge family and got bored of actually playing the game 10 minutes later. So when games announce the ability to make custom avatars, while I don't get terribly surprised anymore, my interest in playing the game noticeably increases. The upcoming action MMO, Black Desert, received a lot of hype for its detailed system and attractive characters. So let's take a quick and critical look at making some pretty people. Sure, Black Desert has been pimped out everywhere for its customization, but what's really not explained in English coverage besides YouTube links to trailers is that there's only 4 classes currently, and each has appearance and gender tied to them. So if you want to use a certain playstyle like the mages, be prepared to use that base character model. This is pretty normal in action games like Vindictus, but you're not going to get something as diverse as the Phantasy Star titles. The warrior is your chesty Jake kind of guy. The ranger is an elven white woman with an Asian face. The sorcerer is your edgy nonconformist, and the giant is your bearded bruiser. Beards are optional. 4 more classes, the tamer, wizard, valkyrie, and blader, will be added at some unknown point in the future. As far as it goes, it is pretty detailed. You can turn on the headlock to make sure your character looks fine staring back at you, as well as test out different lighting schemes. Something that's very useful, as some characters might look fine when you're creating them, but terrible in the actual game. By selecting a body part, you get sliders for the 3 directions. On faces, you also get scale and orientation. Faces can come out pretty ugly, but this is usually only by pushing sliders to their max limits or messing with the rotational values. The option to add a little subtle bending, though, adds some realism and personality to what would be glorified fashion models. Because of his pronounced features, the giant's face can't really be varied that much, so if you want a big attractive guy, you're just gonna have to settle for the warrior. Per usual in these types of games, customization is a little bit more fleshed out for female characters than male, with modifications for groups of hair that can be twisted in every which way for the girls, and it's something completely missing for the dudes. Hair modification itself has you picking the layout on top of your head, how do you like it grown out, and just how long you'd like it. You can even affect how wavy it is, but messing with this too much looks a little weird since the hair texture is a bit uniform. A color palette allows you to affect the hue in 3 different areas as well. So if you want to practice making a rainbow-haired DeviantArt character, this is perfect for you. This game does have a very impressive eye editor, in which you can individually change the color and pattern of your pupils and iris. So if you want your own cat-eyed or heart-shaped pupil anime girl, you're covered. The face textures do come in a couple of varieties, so you can replicate different ethnicities, although the default facial proportions won't do much without some tweaking. You can also get aging and wrinkle options, but since it's based on opacity of a texture rather than changing actual geometry, it comes off as a little flat. Black Desert's characters fall into the general design you see in Korean and Chinese fashion bodies, with as much as 10 head tall proportions. No, seriously, I counted. Characters can get thick, but not really fat. The sliders don't deform that far, and if they start to, they just end up looking a little weird. Characters get this really weird chest deformation if you puff out their stomach. I was surprised by how much arm length can be adjusted, especially for what will be a more action-oriented game, and the risks of how holding weapons might look wrong if they're too long or too short. An interesting attention to detail can be found with how you can change the size of each individual finger, although have fun trying to select each joint. Either due to a lack of understanding Korean or my own blindness, I couldn't find an undo option. This would have been useful a couple times when I screwed up, although you do have the standard ability to reset things to defaults. You also get a character poser that allows you to play around with all the limbs. Overall, Black Desert has one of the better character creation systems I've encountered. While realistically prettier than the systems in The Sims or the Phantasy Star franchise, those two have more options and variety, and even though the defaults have a lot of attention to detail in them, you're still limited to how far you can modify them. With enough tweaking though, you can make some completely different looking avatars, and being an expert on big butts, I know they are catering to my market in mind. Black Desert is still early in development with no word on its business model, but there's a high chance of it coming to the West now. I'll be looking forward to trying out actual gameplay in the months to come. Tits are life, ass is hometown.